Hey, what's happening? Episode 120. I am Shaine, and I'm very happy to have two guests with me today. So the first one that we have, for those watching, he's going to be right next to me, right there. Brad Mills.
Wait. Oh, hi.
Wrong direction. You already messed it up.
Wrong way.
He's the host of the Magic Internet Money podcast. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
And then the guy that's under me right there, again, for those who are watching, Guy Swann. He is the host of the Bitcoin Audible and the Shitcoin Insider. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing, Shaine?
I'm good. Again, thank you both for being here. It's funny how this whole thing came about. Just a little quick story about all this that happened for those who care. So I'm pretty sure like Guy is basically the one that kind of initiated this whole thing. I mean, like, yeah, we got to do a podcast together and all this stuff because, do a Bitcoin episode. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I think it was because you replied to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but you were kind of saying, I think we were going to do a Bitcoin episode. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It was in a thread. I think I was bugging Dave Smith again, and and then y'all jumped in, or you jumped in, and me and American Hodl was like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then he had to cancel, and then we were like, Brad's the right man for the job to fill in. Yeah. So at the last minute, Brad came in and saved the show. So again, thank you for being here.
So I guess the last time that What's Happening did an episode on Bitcoin was late 2019. I think it was like December. I just said the date before we went.
December 2019, I believe it was.
Yeah. And it was with Rolo from the Rolo and Slappy show. And and that was back when Bitcoin was. How much was it? 20,000, 30,000 or something like that?
Oh no, it's probably like 5 or.
I was about to say it's probably like right around 6 and into 2019. Yeah, it was suffering there. That was, I mean, it might have been up to 10 around there. I don't know. I had to look it up.
Okay, yeah. So I was being too liberal on that one. But yeah, now I think it just hit a record high. I think it was 63,000, I believe it was. And I mean, that's pretty incredible from where it was then to where it is now. It just keeps growing and growing. So I guess I'll ask Mark first, how much has this kind of been kind of just incredible to see how much this has grown since 2019, I guess we can say.
Well, let's call Mark. Hold on. Let's get Mark on the line here.
Oh, did he say Mark?
We got Brad and Guy going.
Oh no! I didn't even realize that you said that until you said. I was like, wait a minute, did I say the wrong name?
It's a white guy name. It works.
That's pretty much.
Why am I thinking of Mark? I don't know why I'm thinking of Mark. Maybe I don't know.
Letters. BRADMARK.
You should have kept going. You should have just kept going. Yeah, let me go actually call Mark and ask him. Yeah, you should have just kept going along with it. I was gotta have somebody in your contact. I mean, come on, I don't know
named Mark. You gotta have somebody named Mark.
My cousin is Mark. Yeah, and seriously. So was that directed to me?
Yeah, that was. Sorry, Brad. I apologize. Yes.
No problem, man. I'm usually I relate. I have name dyslexia, and like. One time, I'll tell you a funny story. One time I was at this entrepreneur event, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like such a dumbass because I was a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was back when like, I think it was 2008 or 9 or something like that. Right around when Ron Paul was like doing the presidential campaign, I got really into gold. So I'm like, how else can I learn about gold? And so I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he was talking about gold there and investing in real estate, things like that, and how dollars are going to be going down over time. And so I was like a huge fan of Robert Kiyosaki. Gold was like $400-$500 at the time. So I bought a little bit of gold and started to look into the markets. I don't have any financial background or anything. So I didn't know anything about stocks or bonds or investing in general. I was just like, well, that makes sense. Gold should be valuable because it's bought a suit, a nice suit back in 1910, and now it'll buy you a nice suit now, and the dollar doesn't do that anymore. So that whole thing, it kind of spoke to me. So I was at this entrepreneur event a few years later, and Guy Kawasaki was there, and I have name dyslexia, so I'm just making this up, like this term, name dyslexia, but I think it's legitimately a real thing.
It's a real thing.
So Guy Kawasaki, Robert Kiyosaki, it sounds so similar. And Guy Kawasaki is the dude that was like a product. He was at Apple, and then he did Canva. He did Canva, and super successful entrepreneur. So he gets on stage and he does this panel, and he goes, "Anybody have any questions?" And I stand up in front of all these smart entrepreneurs, and I'm like, "Hey, so back in 2008, you gave a great piece of advice about how gold is going to retain value and dollars are not going to retain value. You were so prescient back then. You gave such great advice. What do you think about gold now, and what do you think about Bitcoin?" And he just looks at me like I'm just a total idiot, and he says, "This guy thinks I'm Robert Kiyosaki." I think I just met the first Canadian I don't like. I was like, oh my God, I look like such a racist.
Yeah.
Mixing up Guy Kiyosaki and Robert. Oh man. So anyways, don't feel bad.
Well,
happens to the best of us.
I guess in this climate we live in, I guess doing it to a white guy isn't that bad, right?
Dangerous territory.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you do it to a white guy, you probably get
I'll get
karma point or something.
Yeah, I'll probably get like tens of thousands of dollars in my PayPal. But hey, here's support. Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. That's what we need to do more of.
Well, what was the actual question? I forget.
Well, the actual question, Brad, is just how amazed are you at the incredible growth that Bitcoin has done since 2019 to now?
I mean, it's kind of expected it. I'm not really amazed. I think we all that are really deep into Bitcoin expected this.
Yeah.
I think the more amazing thing was like going from $1,000 to $20,000 from that, like after Mt. Gox blew up, to getting back to an all-time high of $20,000 in 2017. That kind of felt more like a shocking event to me, and I was kind of like in euphoria, like right now I'm buying Bitcoin still. I'm buying all the all-time highs. I bought the dip yesterday when it went down to like $52,000. I caught the bottom of that. I'm buying every dip, every all-time high. Every time I get triggered by a Dogecoin tweet or a Ripple tweet, I'm just buying Bitcoin all the time. I think if it gets to like $500,000 or something, if it like parabolic shoots up to like $500,000 in the next year, then you can probably come back and ask me that question again, and I'll probably be like, I don't know, man. I mean, we all say, like, a lot of us think it's going to get there, 500,000 to $1 million. It's like common knowledge now amongst the Bitcoin community, just because of the macroeconomic things that are going on right now with all the stimulus and everything. So I know we all say that, but that's like back in the day when it was like $10 and everybody was, thinking $1,000 one day, it's possible $1,000. And then some of the really crazy people were saying one day it'll be $10,000. And we were like, yeah, right. Okay. 10,000, that's $10. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, it's not really unexpected at this point. It feels great to see a lot of big names and stuff start to like adopt it, though. Not talking about price.
Yeah. What about you, Guy?
Got to keep the theme.
Yeah,
I kind of feel the same way. Is that, and in fact, I don't know what it is about. Like, I feel like we're kind of this is a bump on the way to where we're headed. And honestly, the 50,000s has been a little bit boring for some reason. But the most interesting thing to me has been to watch it kind of bleed into the mainstream, and like how it lands, like where it gets picked up and who it gets picked up by and which companies embrace it. And it's been really interesting to watch that unfold, because like I think we're seeing this enter the basically there's such a desperate grasp for anything that produces some sort of yield in this market when interest rates are suppressed to zero or negative. And you have this idea that it's going to start flooding into that scope of the financial system, but you're like, how exactly, like what's going to come first? Are people going to figure out that you can use this protocol for a payment system and remittances? Is Lightning going to catch steam, or is that going to sit on the sidelines where corporate bonds and debt instruments are going to be dumped for this? Like and like watching that play out has been really fascinating. And then all the FUD just came back with a vengeance. Like the hype cycles are just really, really fascinating to watch from like a network and like social perspective, as how people see this thing. And like we've got the same FUD that we've had for the last 4 freaking bubbles that comes back telling us how Bitcoin's gonna die and what it's gonna do wrong and all these awful consequences. And you have to beat it back over and over and over again. It's like there's nothing new in the Bitcoin critics circle, but it's fascinating. I love it. That's why I'm here. That's why I have a daily show blabbering about Bitcoin.
I feel that maybe they're criticizing it because everything that I guess Bitcoin stands for is kind of just everything in terms of their worldview is just thrown out the window.
Yeah.
And because I mean, for some people, especially people who are on the outside, including myself, who are kind of just looking at it and they're not like, they're just like, I mean, because you're just saying, Brad, how you're like, well, this was expected. But then someone like me who was asking, well, I mean, this is pretty amazing. This growth is amazing. And then, but you were just saying, well, this is expected or whatever. For everyone who was looking at that and they're kind of just, like, I don't know how this keeps going on and up and up. I don't get it. But then also, because for some people, this whole Bitcoin thing kind of just came out of nowhere. And then here it is, like you're saying, kind of getting more into the mainstream. So like getting into the mainstream, does that worry you at all in terms of, because I mean, whenever like Elon Musk, whenever he'll tweet something like Bitcoin, it'll go up because he just has that power or whatever. But does that kind of worry you at all? Because something that I was thinking about, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, but something I was kind of thinking about is that, politicians were thinking about this and talking about it and saying, the whole stereotype of, they use crypto and they use Bitcoin for, they do like drug deals and all this dumb stuff, whatever they say, because it's not regulated. There's no middleman or anything like that, right? So I'm kind of wondering if they find this such a huge threat. I would think, and I don't know, maybe I'm giving them ideas, so maybe this is a bad thing to say out loud, but I'm kind of like thinking maybe secretly they're actually into it,
like an attempt to co-opt it, sort of thing.
Co-opt it, or even try and get some grasp of it to where we're just gonna not make it a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because it is like now, like you're saying, it was 5,000 or so back in late 2019, December 2019, to where it is now. I mean, it's, I don't know, 500% or 500,000% or whatever the percentage is.
Yeah.
It's way higher than it is. And it's a huge threat to just the Federal Reserve and monetary system in general that we're kind of just used to. And so, yeah, so going back to the what I was saying before, does that worry you at all?
Brad, you want to take this first?
Yeah, actually, I kind of used to struggle with that concept a little bit, maybe 3-4 years ago, when the block size war was kind of happening, and maybe the price was around $1,000, or actually it was probably about $700 when there was all this kind of like excitement about whether or not the Bitcoin ETF was going to get approved in like late 2016. And there was a lot of debate about do we even want that? Because that's going to mean Wall Street's going to be getting involved, and then that's going to kind of dilute the values of Bitcoin, and you're going to get all this new attention from all these like people that destroyed the financial system in the first place. Like, why do we want them involved? And it was like, you know, you get a lot of that same logic from altcoiners, that like people that split off from Bitcoin created like the Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV and all the Litecoin people, like all the Ethereum, everybody, especially the privacy coin people like the Moneros and the Zcashers and all that. They kind of all use the same logic that, oh, Bitcoin is like co-opted by Wall Street, and it's all, you know, surveilled by the government, and it's a surveillance chain, and, you know, the original mission of Bitcoin is dead, and you can't even use it because it's too expensive, and like all these dumb, idiotic narratives that they just try to use to pump their shitcoin, because they've been saying this since Bitcoin was like $400. Like, they're totally been proven wrong by the market. And as libertarians, you got to believe in the free market. And so the free market gives you the signals and tells you what's right and what's valuable. And it's obvious that Bitcoin is the thing that's valuable. So I kind of struggled with that a little bit, but then I was like, you know what? Any kind of money that will end up becoming used as like a fairly distributed money will become used by your enemies. And that's where the thing about Bitcoin is money for your enemies came from, because it is the coin that allowed like WikiLeaks to be able to combat their debanking. And, you know, a lot of right-wing people were using Bitcoin this year, Gab and stuff like that. When they got deplatformed and shut down, they're able to use Bitcoin. So yeah, you're going to have attention from the CIA and like the NSA and the Communist Party of China, and the central banks of the world are probably going to start looking at Bitcoin. But that's not what Bitcoin isn't meant to be like exclusionary to the people that ruined the system in the first go around. It's meant to be like, an open system that allows anyone that believes in free markets and believes in the values that Bitcoin allows you to like put your money where your mouth is and say, I believe in a system that I can opt into that is controlled by no government. So it allows people like us and a lot of libertarians and just early technology adopters, and now a lot of normal mainstream people, to kind of get in before the central banks and before Wall Street. So I don't know. I don't think it's as much of an issue as a lot of people make it out to be, because no matter what happens, any system, like I said, that gets adopted by this many people is going to eventually catch the attention of the raccoons on Wall Street and like the money masters. So it's inevitable. It's not, you can't stop it from happening. So it's just like, hopefully Bitcoin is what's happening. It's not like, I like to think of that ending scene from The Matrix where Neo just lets Agent Smith like put his hand inside and absorb and spread the virus inside of Neo, and then Neo actually destroys the program from within. It's like the only thing that we can do is like submit and let them come in, and hopefully then the like unchangeable properties of Bitcoin will change the financial system from the inside, because they can't change Bitcoin. Once they get the ETF, once all these pension funds have exposure to Bitcoin, whether it's through directly owning Bitcoin through the ETFs or whatever, I mean, they're going to try to, they can't control Bitcoin like they can control the fiat money. So that's, kind of like one shot that we have to fix money from the inside.
All right, Guy Pigeon.
Guy Pigeon.
Damn near the same answer. If I was worried about mainstream coming in, it would be because like I didn't think Bitcoin was going to work. Right. The whole point, the design, the game theory of Bitcoin is that it doesn't matter who, quote unquote, joins it. The design of the system is to maintain consensus in the face of adversaries. And if we actually want it to be a liberating force, if we actually want to be able to create like financial, like monetary sovereignty for people in any nation in the world, like on a global scale, well, then that means there's no door, like you can't shut anybody out of this. If people are going to be making money on it, of course, Wall Street's going to get involved too. Of course, banks are going to get involved. Like, This is about creating an entirely new financial system. All of those services, that's what they do, is try to create payment networks, try to make money, try to figure out how to get yield on this instrument and that instrument, and put together insurance funds and this, that, and the other. Of course, they're going to be involved. You failed if you can't create one that doesn't involve them, you know? So like in my mind, it was absolutely an inevitability. And the whole point of this thing is to be able to create a system in which they can be involved and they can't control it. And I don't see any way in which them getting involved means they run the thing. I still run my node. They change the rules. They got nothing to do with me. They're going to fork off on their own stupid crap coin, and they can go play by themselves. I don't care. Like Bitcoin is still Bitcoin because of the way the system is designed and because of the way it is validated. And so if it gets that big, they're all going to come play. Everybody's going to come play.
So I had teased you guys on a couple of articles that I wanted to surprise you with, you could say, but they're kind of related to what I was just asking about. And so this first one here is in Reuters. Let me get to it. And the title is Britcoin, not Bitcoin. UK considers new digital currency. And so just the first paragraph, it says British Finance Minister Rishi Sunak told the Bank of England on Monday to look at the case for a new Britcoin, or central bank-backed digital currency aimed at tackling some of the challenges posed by cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. A BOE-backed digital version of sterling would potentially allow businesses and consumers to hold accounts directly with the bank and to sidestep others when making payments, appending the lender's role in the financial system. So just reading those first two paragraphs in this article, they were saying, hey, these cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, they're causing some problems for us. We need to keep this thing the way it is. This Bitcoin thing, we got to do something about this. So let's make our own.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on that? And I can probably go on and read a little more, but what's your kind of initial thoughts on all that? Brad, you can go first.
I mean, this is just another example of it's kind of two things, really. It's just an inevitable change that money's going to go digital, and Bitcoin was kind of like at the right place in the right time to capture all that energy from technologists and stuff that were early adopters and wanted to see that happen. So there's like two very, very strong narratives of Bitcoin, its store value, and it's a method of exchange. So in the early days, it was a lot of people motivated by seeing a like censorship resistant peer-to-peer cash that was free and instant, and anybody in the world could use, that was allowing you to opt out of using things like PayPal or even dollars and use online money. And that just seemed inevitable. Like the internet disrupted every technology, and money was the last sort of thing to tear down with evolving the internet into like something that had a native money token on top of it. And the banks and the governments and everything moved so slow that there was a right time, right place for Bitcoin to be able to capture that energy. And there's the store of value narrative, which is digital gold. And it was both, like Bitcoin is both of those things. And the non-interesting thing about these digital currencies that the central banks are doing, and it's not just Britain, it's like Canada's been researching these for like 5 years. China's got one on the way, or actually it is in the DCEP. It's in a couple cities now actually being tested. And the US,
China's pretty much further along than anybody, I think, on their CBDC.
And even Facebook was trying to do something like this with their digital stablecoin project, which was Libra, and then rebranded to Diem after the Congress kind of like hauled them into talk in front of everybody and asked them a bunch of questions and make sure that they weren't going to use the Chinese yuan to back it, and keep it focused on the US dollar.
Yeah.
So anyways, I guess the long summary of the long narrative there is that like this is going to happen, and it's not like it's a digital currency that's like Bitcoin. It's just a digital currency that allows the financial system to kind of like evolve to get with the times, because money is pretty much digital now. It's all entries in databases, and they're just doing it now in a way that's like making it more official. The interesting thing that I think is it's going to bring more people to Bitcoin as the central banks start using these central bank digital currencies, and as like companies like Facebook start to adopt stable coins. And even Visa is doing a bunch of partnerships with Bitcoin and even Ethereum companies, stablecoin companies like Circle, where the US government is like officially allowing Visa and companies like Circle to use open, what do they call them? Open digital network rails or something like that, open blockchain rails or something. So it's just basically giving permission for these circles and stuff like that have stable coins to officially, without risk of being shut down or fined or whatever, process payments that ride on blockchains like Bitcoin. Unfortunately, like Circle chose to partner with Ethereum to build their crypto net, the Visa crypto net, which kind of sucks for Bitcoiners to see like, oh, well, they're going down that route. But regardless, it's like, it's not like the central banks are going to start using Bitcoin. Like the central banks are way more impactful than Visa, and like Facebook is not going to use Bitcoin. Facebook's going to make their own blockchain or use an existing like private ledger or something like that. So I think the thing is that this is net positive for Bitcoin, because it's going to open up billions of people to Googling what is Bitcoin or like what is digital currency, and then they'll get led to Bitcoin. Hopefully that's where I see it going. It all kind of leads back to Bitcoin, because none of them have the store of value properties. Like they're all sinking ships in terms of storing your value, and Bitcoin is really the only thing that will hold your value over time.
So just a few more things in the article that I wanted to get to that were kind of interesting. So it said that the Bank of England said a digital version of sterling would not replace either physical cash or existing bank accounts. And then the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey has previously said Bitcoin, the best known cryptocurrency, fails to act as a stable store of value or an efficient way to make transactions, making it ill-suited to serve as a currency and a risky bet for investors.
Oh shit! Did he say that?
That's what it says here in the article. Yeah,
we should just pack it up.
We're done. We're done. I gotta get.
Well, I mean, he said it, so I guess
Bitch, I gotta shut down this podcast. This has been a wild ride, guys.
Yeah, I better cash out before it all goes to zero.
So I mean, clearly that guy knows what he's talking about. You know,
obviously he's an expert. He's an expert.
He's an expert in enslaving an entire population and ladling them with debt. That's what he's an expert in.
Yeah, because he's totally in that central planning, central bank system. So of course he can be like, oh yeah, we should totally go into Bitcoin. Are you crazy? Yeah, of course he's gonna try and sympathize in his head. Go, yeah, we need more of that. We need more fiat. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. That's what we need. Just keep printing that money. I know it's like in England, but in general, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they all say that. All the central bankers say that. Of course, like the fact that they're even commenting and saying Bitcoin in their press releases, it shows that they're afraid of Bitcoin and they have to say something about it. So of course they're gonna actually, like the Chinese central bank yesterday said something pretty interesting about Bitcoin. They said that Bitcoin is a store of, or an investment. It should be looked at as an investable asset. So that was really surprising to see the Communist Party of China come out with that kind of take. The US better get on getting gear, otherwise they're going to let China take all the Bitcoin away from them.
That's actually the news article that I was going to share. Talk where you just mentioned. I'll just go ahead and share it so that people can see it. But here in Bitcoin.com, and the title of the article is "China calls Bitcoin and stablecoins investment alternatives for the first time since crypto crackdown." And then there's this quote, I guess from Li Bo, I guess during a panel hosted by CNBC at the Bao Forum for Asia. And so his quote is, "We regard Bitcoin and stablecoin as crypto assets. These are investment alternatives. They are not a currency per se. And so the main role we see for crypto assets going forward, the main role is investment alternative." So yeah, just what you were kind of mentioning that they came with that today, basically saying this. So yeah, if China is saying this, and yet American politicians, for the most part, are being like, "Man, this crypto, we gotta do something about this." I don't know.
What the hell are these people doing over here? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know. That is kind of interesting that the Chinese government is kind of seeing. I'm sure they have. I mean, everybody's going to have their kind of plan of what they're going to do and everything like that when it comes to this whole thing with Bitcoin and all that. But I think that's an interesting piece of information, knowing that China is basically saying that, hey, it's could be used as an investment. Hey, we can do this. Is pretty cool. We can use this or something like that. But yet, yeah, like in America, they're kind of being like, I don't know. We should just keep making the printer go burr. That's what we need. We need that.
That's exactly what this is. I mean, Brad basically said this is a concession. This is them giving ground because they know they're losing.
Yeah.
If they don't admit that the infrastructure, that the system is changing, if Bitcoin didn't exist, nobody would be running CBDCs. They'd have no competition. Why would they be upgrading? Everything's already digital. Everybody already uses a credit card and debit card. And they have full control over their systems. Money is a tool of trust. The reason Bitcoin is winning is because that you can just look at the rules and it's impossible to change those rules. It's got a monetary policy that nobody in the world can do a damn thing to. It's stuck. It is set in stone. It's the most predictable monetary policy on the face of the planet. And it goes up because it's unbelievably scarce. The CBDCs are just going to be a way to print faster. They're just going to be a way to internalize their censorship, to automate their control over other people's money. But the concession is that they're admitting defeat on how their system works. It's been 40 years since we've really updated the electronic payment systems and like the infrastructure of our monetary system. It's the same old crap it's always been. Visa uses a coding platform, like a coding language that nobody even learns. Like almost nobody teaches. And it's one of the reasons they actually maintain their monopoly. They specifically continue to use a coding language that nobody knows so that they can basically nobody can integrate with their system. Everybody has to ask permission. And this is how they've done it. They've had this closed permissionless system. It's just like BitTorrent. And when they like Steve Jobs finally got them to pay, got them to admit that they needed to sell songs, like during during the whole copyright mess, they refused to sell songs individually. You had to buy the whole album. They refused to sell it online because people were going to download it illegally. And Steve Jobs went to them after years of BitTorrent and file sharing and all this stuff, and they were losing. They were losing miserably because people knew they were going to get it for free if you didn't give it to the customer the way they wanted it. And Steve Jobs said, "You're either going to give it to all of them for free, or you're going to sell it for 99 cents on my Apple App Store or on the music store."
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They finally conceded. They gave ground. And then it went to streaming and free. They just admitted defeat one step at a time. And this could not be a more perfect example. What did he tweet? Did he tweet UK digital sterling? No, he tweeted Britcoin. He's being dragged behind the coattails of Bitcoin. They're trying to position that this is like Bitcoin. It's just government approved. Like, there is absolutely an admission of defeat. And then they're building our infrastructure for us. They're building public key cryptography into their shit old monetary system. They're gonna be using like the same hardware wallets that we use. They're gonna be buying it from Bitcoin companies because they already built it all. Stablecoins run the same public key infrastructure that Bitcoin does. It's just a copy and paste, and they put a different token on it. they're going to absolutely build all of our infrastructure. They're going to do all the integration and all the compatibility, and all of that money, all of that value is going to flood into Bitcoin 10 times faster, because now you're just trading a digital point for another digital point. I think it's crazy bullish. I think it's crazy bullish for Bitcoin.
I was just going to say that he misspelled Bitcoin and put an extra R in there for some reason.
Maybe that's what he did. Maybe that's all it is.
He's like, I don't know how to. Let's think of a new cryptocurrency. I don't know. Bitcoin. Okay. I mean, we're British. Oh, Britcoin. That sounds smart. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, they're really smart in coming up with new terms and new words, and kind of when they pass these, or when they write these bills, and they have these really
sound good.
Yeah, they sound great. Oh yeah, the Recovery Act. Okay, sure, whatever. Yeah, real recovery.
Everybody Good Things and Happy Puppies Act.
They might as well just call it that. Everybody gets $1 million Act, but that's a total lie.
I got a question for you, actually. Are you super connected and like deep into the libertarian community online?
I would say kinda, maybe. I'm not like 100%. I'm best friends with everyone, but I guess I'm kind of more in those circles, I suppose. Mainly on social media, I would say. I wouldn't say like everybody knows who I am.
I would say I see y'all in all the same circles.
Yeah, right.
Like I've been following y'all for ages, and I'd be like, oh yeah, these are the libertarian crew, and like I would put y'all in that group.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a list on Twitter.
How long have you been in the libertarian circles for?
Maybe like 3 years, I would say. Not too long, but I would say a couple years or so.
So what do you think is the biggest, I guess, complaint or misconception or reason why libertarians are just not jumping on board with Bitcoin and aligning with it? I mean, a lot are, but like the ones that the holdouts, what do you think is going on there?
There's a weird disconnect. There's a subset that like really fully embraced it, and then there's kind of this front of the libertarian community that mostly kind of sits on the sidelines, it seems like.
Well, and I'm not going to say I know 100% what the answer is. Sure, I'll go ahead and say that. I would probably guess maybe some of them just have they kind of have their hand in gold or precious metals, I guess you can say. And then maybe other ones are more into the like Bitcoin Cash and everything like that. And I know it's interesting that you kind of talk about like why some libertarians are holdouts. I'll kind of just say that it's interesting to see how, even though you can have, just for an example, you can have 3 libertarians in one room, and yet sometimes they'll say completely different things, even though they all identify themselves as libertarian. So one libertarian will be like, "Nah, I'm in the gold." Other one will say, "I love Bitcoin." The other one's like, "I don't know about Bitcoin. I'm kind of more into the Bitcoin Cash type of." And the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash are just the other coins as opposed to Bitcoin, and those arguments and fights, it's crazy. It can get pretty nasty. I'm kind of
amazing
because I mean, you probably see some of the libertarian infighting, how crazy and insane those can be.
I've never seen that other than like Roger Ver and the people that he influences. I mean, I've argued with a bunch of like Jeffrey Tucker and folks like that who kind of like went down the Bcash rabbit hole in 2017-18. But like in terms of the general libertarian Twitter or whatever, I don't even know. I don't even go really like on it. I don't know who is the influencers in libertarianism or whatever. Is that a thing? Like they always fighting about different investments?
Oh, I mean, just you probably name a topic and there's probably a libertarian position on both sides or whatever. I mean, the big ones that I can think of are just like abortion, immigration, and stuff like that. But I would think with crypto, I mean, it is an interesting thing to think about, because you would think, because this is so anti central banking and everything like that with Bitcoin, you would think they would all just jump on board, right? But maybe they just have their, I guess, doubts, or I don't know what the correct word would be for that. But maybe because they have all these other assets, they're kind of I can understand that, because when you're kind of comfortable in where you are, and you're kind of, you know how it's going to be. I can understand why someone's can be, I don't know. I see where Bitcoin is, and I don't know, and I know we've said it on this episode where it's been where it was before to, you know, where it is now. It just keeps growing and growing. So if you see that, you would think, oh well, I guess now's the time, because if I don't do it now and I wait 2 years later, who knows? Maybe 2 years later it'll be 150,000 or so. You know, who knows? So I don't really know. And in terms of just like the influencers, whatever, I don't really know. I wish I was more of an expert in that, but I don't really know. So I'm probably not the best person to ask that question. But I think it's an interesting.
Oh, I think you got it.
I'll
I
actually
think you touched on it there. It seems like unit bias and price anchoring and stuff like that is really the culprit.
I actually think it's a couple of things. As someone who's followed the libertarian community, and like I'm a huge fan of, like, you know, Tom Woods and Dave Smith and Bob Murphy, Jeffrey Tucker. Like I've followed all of them for ages. And I think there was a degree, I think it was a handful of things. One thing is that Roger Ver and somebody like Vin Armani or whatever, Thaddeus Russell has kind of become a Bcasher. There's a lot of people who are really tight, or not Thaddeus Russell, Pete Quinones, that are like really tight in the libertarian community that ended up on Bcash. And they, you know, you kind of trust the people around you, you know, like if you're friends with somebody, if you're close with somebody, you don't want to just be like, well, you have no idea what you're talking about, you're totally wrong on this. Like, you entertain what they think. Like if they're telling you, if they're suggesting something to you, you're like, okay, well, I'll check that out, you know, let me look into it. And then another two things is libertarians really are kind of the ones who embrace the conspiracy theories, you know, and I don't even mean that in a negative way. Like, they're inherently very, very untrustworthy. And Bcash basically came about on what I think is an absolutely ridiculous conspiracy theory about Blockstream. And so it was very appealing to a lot of people, specifically the people who just were rushing to a conclusion. And, you know, you've got to kind of got your prime market right there to just feel like they're fighting the man. So like, it embraced that, like, it's just fuel to that fire that's always there in the libertarian community. And then lastly, I think libertarians are used to being on the fringe. Like, as much as I hate it, being a libertarian myself, we're used to losing. So when something works out and it's like succeeding and going into the mainstream, there's this inherent, like, that must be the wrong thing that I think is there. And so, like, I think it's comfortable to be in Bcash in a sense, like, coming from that perspective. So I think a lot of people get kind of roped into that, and then they lose kind of the engineering, like the really core concepts about creating a defensible network, and the really difficult technical side of this that informed something like the block size debate. And, you know, somebody who's not technical, who just does economics and politics and stuff. Nobody wants to fucking learn how the protocol works and all that shit. Like, that's awful for, you know, somebody sitting on the outside. So it's a whole lot easier to embrace those alternatives. Like, I don't hold it against anybody, but I wish we could all sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before about the Bitcoin versus Bcash or just other cryptos. And how they just
vicious.
Yeah, they just talk past each other. They call each other, and it's just, yeah. I mean, look, you can go one way, or you can say, oh, I do like Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum. I can kind of embrace all of them in some way, even if you are, you know, I do like Bitcoin more, but I do have some other assets in the other ones as well. And, you know, you can disagree with me on this, you guys. I don't, you know, whatever. But I think kind of what you were talking about, how they're kind of more embracing of the Bitcoin Cash, whatever. And if that's where they're going to go, I'm sure they've probably seen things on Bitcoin as well, and then just felt, I think Bitcoin Cash is just better suited for me, and that's where I'm going to go. And, you know, I think it's important to have discussions, because I would like to do an episode in the future where I am talking to someone who's in more of an altcoin or a Bitcoin cash prize, because I want to have that conversation, and I want to have people go, okay, so there is Bitcoin, but there's also other alternatives as well. Even if there are people who are more in one camp or the other, I think it is important to have those discussions. And I think they do a disservice when it gets vicious and everything like that, because people look at that. Same thing with the people who, I do feel like I'm more libertarian, but then they go on social media and they see people arguing with each other, and then they call each other names, and they, you know what, I'm going to block you because I don't want to have, it's just, I do think blocking does have its place, but I think when you're trying to have a conversation with someone trying to learn, it's definitely easier to kind of do that because you're not looking at someone face to face. It's definitely easier to do all that stuff. And
from a difference, from a distance, you just say whatever you want. Like, it's not the same thing as being in person. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if you guys
that's where the phrase "have fun staying poor" was like, the genesis.
That. Yeah, I've definitely seen that for sure.
It's pretty much, it's like the conversations have been had so many times, and at this point it's ideological. Yeah, and it's like, it's ideological, and it's fighting reality too. It's like Bitcoin clearly won, and it's the scaling debate was a huge moment for Bitcoin, that the sect of Bitcoiners that were early libertarians and anarchists and all that, who tried to take control of Bitcoin and scale it in a way that they wanted to scale it. They failed, and they went over and they kind of tried to do their own thing, and it's just been a absolute like failure if you look at the market. And of course they say that they've got tons of transactions and stuff like that, but when you actually look at like coin metrics and places like that where they get rid of the wash trading and the likely like fake trades, because it's free to do a trade on all these other, like a lot of these other blockchains like Bitcoin Cash and stuff. So it's like, they can just easily fake transactions. So if you cluster the addresses and you can run some analytics on the transactions, you can see a lot of it is fake or economically valueless transactions. Just like on BSV, it's like updating the weather and like sending out tweets and stuff like that. It's like there's no economic value in that type of a transaction. But I mean, obviously someone that's on that side of the argument will say, oh, that's a straw man, and we're actually doing this for philosophical reasons. But it's like Bitcoin works, and Bitcoin is winning, and Bitcoin is scaling via the second layers and side chains. And we are building peer-to-peer cash for the world via decentralized first ethos. So the thing that the other forks and the other altcoins have all kind of like proven out is that they're not as decentralized as Bitcoin. And a lot of Bitcoiners will say they're just like total shit coins and they're totally centralized. And I try to steel man as much as I can. And I will say that there's certain aspects of some of these coins that have decentralized properties, or maybe they're a bit decentralized, but I think most people don't get how important decentralization is. And, earlier when you asked, what do I think about now that we're here, it's like 55,000 or whatever. I think that I'm going to amend my answer, because it's actually kind of shitty, because now it's like the frothiness has come back and all the charlatans are back, and all the the stupid, like dumb ICO behavior and NFTs are now all the rage, and it's just like sucking in all these people to lose their money, and it's muddying up the water. Like from 2019, like 2018, 19, and 2020 was really good for Bitcoin, because we got to like focus on writing really good content, producing really good content, educating people on what really matters about Bitcoin and why decentralization is so important and how Bitcoin is going to scale to the world. And all of that stuff was all great. And we're picking up tons of steam, and you see that in the price, right? But then when Bitcoin enters a bull market, all the other altcoins are correlated to Bitcoin. Like if Bitcoin's in a bull market, it opens up the opportunity for all the market makers and whales for all the other coins to start pumping the price. And and all this investment froth comes back, and all the VCs start piling money into trading bots and market making bots and all that stuff, and the like VC activity picks up, and then you get like hundreds of millions of dollars from all these people that want to get in on the action piling into the space, and then you see NFTs going for millions of dollars, and then celebrities getting involved. So it sucks right now that Bitcoin is in this crazy bull market, because it's brought back a lot of confusion, and a lot of people that don't have a deep understanding of why Bitcoin is valuable are looking around at all these other coins like Dogecoin and Ripple that are like in the cents, and they're like, well, I can't afford a $60,000 Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a coin that's 50 cents. And then, it's just going to repeat again. So it's like, I don't know. I almost feel like hibernating for like a year and waiting for the crypto bubble to just blow up and everybody to lose their money again, to go down 95% like it did the last couple times. And then we can get back to Bitcoin, because it is important. It is a philosophical mission that a lot of early libertarians, anarchists, all that are still driving this thing. And it's still for the same thing. It's still, we're trying to make peer-to-peer cash for the world, but also fix money and create some kind of digital savings, like digital gold system that billions of people in the world can opt into and use to protect their wealth. So that's the frustrating thing about Bitcoin at 50,000. It's like, it's in a bull market, so which just totally blows open the doors to the crypto bubble now. And it's just so confusing for everybody new coming into it.
Yeah, it seems that for them, like new people that go into the Bitcoin, like you're saying, goes down in a bull market where it goes to 50,000 or even lower, perhaps. It's almost like they're saying history just happened yesterday or today. Oh shit. Bitcoin's at 50,000. Oh man, now I can actually get more. Wow, this is crazy. When like we were saying, there was a time where it was at zero. It was at zero, and then it's kept going.
Like a year and a half.
Yeah. It's not like this hasn't been around for, oh man, it's been around since John F. Kennedy was president. Oh shit. Wow. Okay. It's like, this is still fairly a new thing. I mean, I guess you could say the internet too is fairly new, but this is even more new. So, and then, so kind of going with I guess like you're saying, how this has been like this, I guess this revolution or something like that when it comes to decentralization, and just I guess the philosophical debates between those who are into Bitcoin and the altcoins or however you want to call them. It just seems that everybody that is into it, especially the libertarians and the anarchists who kind of more into that decentralization and they get it. I feel that they're all kind of doing it. It's basically with anything with libertarians, because you have some libertarians who they're more minarchists, and then there's libertarians who are anarchists. They want no government. It just seems that they all want the same goal of just, we want this monetary system, we want the central banking, want the Federal Reserve to be gone. But everybody just has their different ways of getting there. And this seems to be just another thing that people just can't 100% agree on. And maybe, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, because what if Bitcoin was just the monopoly on crypto, for example? Would that be something that, because some people look at monopoly and go, I don't want a monopoly. I don't want a monopoly in anything. But could they kind of see this as, oh, well, there's Bitcoin and there's tons of other options, like you're saying with Dogecoin, for example, how it's 50 cents or whatever. You can buy 10, and then you have like $5 worth, and then it'll go up, and you go, holy shit! I now have $50 in my account. Damn, this is crazy. But if I go to buy a Bitcoin, I have to buy 0.000 however many Bitcoin that is that I can actually afford, because I can't afford $50,000. It's crazy, because like for me, for example, it's like, man, I wish back in the day, everybody has that mindset. I wish back in the day I had put some money in there. But I think even then, it's like, it's never too late. I think it's never too late to get into it, because, I mean, you guys know, you've been in the game for a long time. You know how it is when you see that money going up, and you see your just how everything that you've been taught or learned about this whole thing is just incredible.
Yeah.
Well, one thing too about it is that like Satoshis are cheaper than Dogecoins right now.
Yeah, 50 sats. I mean,
50,000.
You can get 50,000 sats for like what, $31 right now?
You just got to shift the frame of reference, but that is one of the
unit
sort of
bias.
like it's unit bias, and it's real, and it's like one of the frustrating things about the price going up as well, that there should be consensus that the exchanges and wallets all switch over to using like the lower units, like the bits or the sats. And it's kind of happening, but not quick enough. And then the result of that is a lot of people like that, they think, oh, well, I can't afford a whole Bitcoin. And it doesn't feel good if you're going to put $1,000 in and you get 0.0002 or something like that. It's like, that doesn't feel good. So in a way, it weeds out people who don't have deep enough like knowledge about it and don't really take the time to really learn about what they're doing. So in one way, it's kind of a net positive, because the people that are holding Bitcoin really understand that unit bias is a logical fallacy. But the people that don't look deep enough into it, like I always wonder, if I didn't get into Bitcoin as early as I did, and if I was just learning about it now, would I be buying Dogecoin and Ripple too? Because I'm like, well, I can't afford a Bitcoin. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yeah. So I try to put myself in the shoes of somebody coming into the space right now. And I was like, I was excited by mining Bitcoin with my gaming computer. That was the thing that kind of sucked me in. It was like, well, it's like digital gold and I can mine it with my computer. That's amazing. I got to get a hold of this. This is awesome. Plus it's like libertarian money. So I was like, this is awesome. But now it's like very expensive. So if you're not wealthy and you come into Bitcoin and you're like, well, I'm going to get 0.0001 of it, I can understand the mindset of somebody who hasn't deeply looked through like monetary history and doesn't understand that there's unlimited Dogecoins. and like it can't go up to $100.
And you're about to buy 10,000 sats for a ridiculous discount.
Yeah. So it's kind of like one of the pitfalls, but the people just have to keep learning. They just have to like, listen to Guy Swann's podcast and hear him read all these amazing articles from these really great thinkers who came from these libertarian, anarchist, Austrian economic circles. Like seriously, it's probably one of the better resources for anybody listening right now to just listen to the articles he reads, because if you listen to probably like 10 hours of Guy Swann's podcast, you'll know why Bitcoin is valuable. And if you don't put that time in to even just listen while you're on a walk or exercising or whatever, you're going to buy Dogecoin and Ripple probably, and you're probably going to get wrecked because it's all going to go down like 95% when this bull market ends. And like we all know that like the central banks can't keep printing this money forever. And if they do, it's going to cause hyperinflation. When shit hyperinflates, or when deflation happens, or whenever they stop or they switch to UBI and it doesn't work, or whatever lever they try to like pull too hard and screw up the money even more than it is now, it's going to cause the stock market to go into a bear market and housing prices to likely crash. And
any move in the interest rates is just going to obliterate stuff.
So cryptocurrencies are going to go down 95%. I can like 100% guarantee that. Like most cryptocurrencies are going to go down 95%. If you're buying Ripple and Dogecoin right now, I'm not going to say 100% for those specific ones, like maybe 95%. I'm like 95% confident that those things are going to go down 95% at some point in the next couple of years. So if you're stuck in this crypto trap, you're just going to get yourself absolutely wrecked, because Bitcoin is the thing that's actually valuable and it's got some real fundamentals behind it.
Shaine, you brought up something in the previous little run there that I think is an unbelievably reasonable thing to a mental framing to have as an outsider. And it's something that a lot of libertarians get wrapped up in, is we disagree on so many different things, like the impossibility of agreeing on things is just kind of a natural element, particularly with libertarians, right? Because we try to start with principles and then we deduce what those things mean, and we all come to different deductions rather than just having a label and then like, oh, we're all just going to follow this stupid label. So we're constantly arguing. Well, the mental framing that, oh, everybody's going to use their own currency and this one's like better for my purposes and all of this stuff, I think is a misunderstanding of it as an asset. I mean, the Chinese central bank or whatever it was that just called it an investment asset or investment alternatives is indicative of this exact same mindset, that this is like an app. This is like a thing on top of the financial system as we know it, that we can maybe invest in, and that will go up or down in price. And, you know, they'll have their own independent adoptions and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just one of many assets. And I think that is a fundamentally incorrect framing. And in fact, you could say that it would even be better if that was the case. Like even from a context of like decentralization, there's like everybody wants freedom. Like, wouldn't it be better if we had 1,000 currencies and then we knew the government couldn't control any of them? Like, you could even argue that it would be great if we had tons. But that is not how protocols and communication layers work out. And for the exact same reason that we don't log into like one of our 5 favorite internets, we log into one internet, right? Like, communication protocols tend to centralize, and not in the bad way. They centralize around the one that is most open and easiest to actually adopt, the most permissionless of the options. And then on that consolidation, in the same way that we all have different cars, we all have, you know, you might drive a big car, I drive a little sporty car, and somebody else drives a Mack truck, whatever it is. We all have our different purposes, but we all follow the same rules of the road. And we can't drive on the road if we don't. The consensus rules of the system are the same. Bitcoin is an open system for value. On top of that, we will have all the different payment networks. We will have one that serves people who want to do big payments that are slow, and people who want to do incredibly fast, small payments. Like, we will have hundreds of protocols built on top of it, just like we have that on TCP/IP. But it takes a very long development cycle to actually get through it. The maturation of those sorts of systems is very slow. Now imagine if we're in a situation where you could just fork TCP/IP, like the protocol for the internet back in like the 80s, and you could just, it's open source, right? You could just go look at the code. Imagine you could copy it, tweak a couple of things, and then immediately get $100 million in VC funding. Like, it's still not going to work. It'll blow up for 7 years and then crash, and then you'll scramble to try to use whatever money you made to piece it back together. And, you know, maybe you in fact, there's actually a pretty funny version. A pretty funny story is IPv5. There was actually a version of TCP/IP that tried to put streaming embedded in the protocol, and it was like dead on arrival. The internet wasn't ready for it. They're trying to make a protocol specifically for this one purpose. It just didn't make any sense. That is what all these things are, except that they're so illiquid. People can make bukus of money off of them by just buying them. They skyrocket for a couple of days, and then they can sell it. At the end of the day, these things are going to consolidate. If it were that we were all just going to use 1,000 different currencies and it was going to end the government monopoly over money, and that was just how it was going to work out, great. I don't care. My goal is to just end government money, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think 999 of them are going to get absolutely wrecked, and then one of them is going to succeed, and it's going to be the one that's actually independent, the one that's actually decentralized and actually permissionless. And I think there's such a clear winner that it's ridiculous, and I think that's Bitcoin.
Well, I think that's a good way to end this episode.
Damn, was that an hour?
Yeah, good stuff.
Flies, man.
Yeah. So I appreciate you guys for coming on. Brad, if you want to plug anything, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, you got a pretty active YouTube comments going there. You got some people commenting through the whole conversation. This is pretty cool. Shelly Mack has been talking. Mad Chris.
Yeah, go to YouTube.
I've been reading it the whole, like, when I'm not speaking, I'll read. People got some interesting things to say there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too.
You know,
I closed all my tabs. I missed all this.
Well, people seem to like the conversation. Yeah, what would I say? I would just really, really recommend, because libertarian folks typically get down the rabbit hole of what is money. And I understand how you could kind of like coming into it now, or even if you've missed Bitcoin, how you could kind of write it off and do some mental gymnastics even and rationalize why Bitcoin is like too expensive, or it's co-opted by the government or the Wall Street, or, you know, there's a lot of people that sort of like fundamentally seem to believe in the same values as Bitcoiners, but like it's a mission and it's never stopped being a mission. And we're all focused on the mission, which is to take away power from central banks to enslave people and steal their time and their you know, invisibly tax them for their whole lives. And we want to see Bitcoin scale to the world to be able to allow anybody, no matter where they are, all whatever 7-8 billion people in the world, use a electronic money system that they can afford to use and they can save in and then they can spend in, that's away from states. And like Guy said, it's likely Bitcoin is going to be the one. So fighting Bitcoin because you think the ticker's too expensive is just not a good way to like align yourself with your philosophical beliefs. If you really do believe in what Ron Paul ran on in 2008 and 12, and you really do believe in Austrian economics, you just got to like hammer yourself over the head with like, it doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is. Bitcoin can go to $10 million. Like literally Bitcoin can suck in tens of trillions of dollars of wealth from other asset classes and just be this black hole that sucks in money from everywhere as it like permeates all these higher upper echelon money system, like money societies and stuff, people that are like sovereign wealth funds and things like that, as they start to look at Bitcoin. Just like you should get involved in Bitcoin before everybody else does, before the central banks do, before Wall Street does, before pension plans and all that get it. And I know it's like challenging to look at Bitcoin at these prices, but seriously, like I'd say the stuff that Guy Swann does is an awesome resource. So check out his podcast and listen to these amazing articles that all these great Bitcoin philosophers are writing. And I learn a lot from listening to his podcast. Like I'm so excited about things.
Thank you for the show, man. I appreciate it.
Like Lightning Network and discrete log contracts and stuff like that. I've learned a lot listening to your podcast. So I would chill that for sure. Like my podcast is more like entertainment kind of, and sure I explore some, like I had a monetary historian on there who's like wrote like a 1,000-page tome on constitutional law about gold. And I had all these questions for him because I'm kind of a noob, right? And I'm just always on a learning journey. But foundationally, like Guy Swann's podcast, I'd say listen to that before my podcast.
Damn. I appreciate that, man. That makes me feel good.
Wow. So, yeah, I guess I'll say that you can follow Brad. You can follow Brad on Twitter at Brad Mills Can.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want to hear a grumpy old Bitcoin boomer always complaining about altcoins and the crypto bubble.
Absolute entertainment on Twitter.
I'm so pissed off and triggered by all the altcoins on Twitter. and Clubhouse, Bitcoin Clubhouse. If you can get on Clubhouse and follow Cafe Bitcoin, Black Bitcoin Billionaires, and what's another one? Bullish. What is it? Bitcoin Bullish or something? And Cafe Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Bullish, I think.
If you can get on Clubhouse, you can just like interact with all the Bitcoiners all day long and really get your questions answered. It's a really great place to get some conviction and get your questions answered around Bitcoin.
All right. And how about you, Lady Bird?
Yeah. So host Bitcoin Audible. Honestly, I would point, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from this episode recently. As Brad said, the main format of the show is actually, I'm just reading articles from other Bitcoiners, like some of the essential works in the in the space. I mean, I've done like 7 audiobooks too on top of all of this. But I mean, like 520 odd reads. But I do a lot of quote unquote guys take episodes where I try to just hit one idea really hard or do some news thing or whatever. And the most recent guys take was 44, and it's titled "Bitcoin is Not What You Think It Is." And I really try to wrap a lot of the fundamental theory of Bitcoin as a new monetary base. Like the idea of it as a protocol, how it is being built out as a network, and then a bit of monetary history and how we can actually see a couple of historical monies that are shockingly akin to exactly how Bitcoin works in a very ethereal way, in just a social way. And that Bitcoin is basically a codification of those previous systems. And there's so much brilliant and rich monetary history to explore, and monies competing with each other. I absolutely find it fascinating. I'm a huge Austrian economics nerd. And I dive into all of it on the show. But my tag is, I mean, you can find me at Bitcoin Audible, but it's actually The Crypto Economy on Twitter, which is a little odd. People have it's hard to spell. There's no E. But yeah, you can find me up there. But also hit me up on DMs. I got my DMs open. Anybody has any questions? Half the damn day I just answer people's questions.
Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate you guys for coming on, and especially for Brad for coming on such short notice, and Guy for basically kind of, I guess, being the spark on getting this conversation going. So I really appreciate.
I'm always bugging libertarians. I'm always bugging my favorite libertarians to sit down and talk about Bitcoin. So I appreciate it, Shaine. Good times, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for everyone watching and listening, and we will see you in the next one to let you know what's happening.